there's three types of leverage. Okay, so you always hear about leverage in relationships and in business. We've heard about leverage, right? So negative leverage is if you have something that's going to be a takeaway from something that they want. Okay, positive is where, of course, you can give them something that they want, right? Some type of pleasure or some type of a bonus. And then normative is where you might use something that they've done in their past as, hey, this is, I thought that was kind of your normative way of doing things. You know, you voted this way in the past on this particular bill, but on this one, so you have normative leverage, holding them to their norms, know their religion, and not in the absolute sense, and so it's a natural behavior to be consistent. All right, loss aversion. This is a big one. There's a whole thing called prospect theory. And so loss aversion. People will do more, they will take more risk to avoid a loss than they will to realize a gain. You know, that's what plays in our mind. It's that loss less than never that Tony Robbins talks about in this book called Unshakable. Whenever we find ourselves, if we ever get bad news or we hear something, you know, you can't focus on loss, less, or never. If you find yourself focusing on loss, less, or never, you're going to be in a bad state of mind, okay? You've got to flip that. All right, and make sure my counterpart has something to lose by inaction. So there's another way that you can use leverage, and that's more of a sales tactic. All right, so been there realities. We're talking about anchoring the emotions. This is where you see sometimes in real estate, people will throw out that anchoring, that very low offer. If it's a listing you have or a property you have for sale, they're trying to shake you up. They're trying to see what they can do, how far they can get you off there, you know, off your norm. And then, you know, as a broker, a lot of times I represent the sellers. I'll say, no, you know, thanks for the offer. We greatly appreciate it, but we're looking for something close to list price. You know, I'm looking for an offer close to list price, close to the sales price. And typically what you want to do also when it comes to price is you want to let the other person make an offer first, okay? That's kind of an oldie but goodie. Establish a bolstering range. So this is a situation where if you're forced in a position and if they're saying, well, what is your point? What is your price? What's your rate, or what do you charge? Well, what you would offer is a bolstering range. What you'd want to do is say, well, in previous deals that I've done, it's been between $100,000 and $125,000, and you want that lower part to be actually where you want to be. Right? That higher part is just going to kind of get them thinking more, but you offer what they call a bolstering range. And then sometimes you can pivot to non-monetary items. You know, if we're talking about a money situation, you can pivot to non-monetary items like, you know, hey, we'll throw in the boat or whatever the situation might be if it's a real estate property, or you know, we'll throw in the stereo for the thing. Or I do bartering with my radio show. So I bring on, you know, paying partners, expert contributors that want to be a part of my show, but I can also barter for airtime in certain situations and get certain types of, you know, for example, hotel rooms on the beach or things like that, things of value, right? And then this is kind of an oldie but goodie as well. You want to use odd numbers and not round numbers, right? So if we're talking about a $189,000 property, we might not want to list it at 189,000, right? We want to use round numbers, especially, and this is more relevant if you're negotiating, you know, something that's a little bit smaller number in my opinion, but you know, something like $178,000, $983, right? So it sounds more permanent, right? It sounds like that number came from somewhere, not just a round number thrown up. And then you can surprise with a gift. All right. So again, we want to use open-ended, calibrated questions. This is one of the big parts of negotiation. Is you want to use how questions, how and what. Those are going to be two of your best questions. You're going to lead in with how and what. How am I supposed to do that? You know, the example he gives in the book is with bank robberies and kidnapping situations is, okay, I want $1 million or your kid dies. Okay, how am I supposed to do that? So now what you're doing is you're putting the onus on that, but you're putting the problem back in that person's court, the kidnapper's court, by saying, okay, well, how am I supposed to get you the $1 million? And then they're thinking in their mind, well, I don't know, routing numbers, or I don't know, nowadays think Bitcoin or something, right? But how am I supposed to do that? That's a good general comeback. Or instead of saying, why did you do it? What caused you to do it, right? And you want to be really careful with why. You want to stay away from why, because when you say why, it's often construed as accusatory. It's like you're accusing them of doing something, right? So again, you're designing a dialogue that leads your counterpart to where you want them to go. Okay? How am I supposed to do that? How do I even know he's alive? What's the core issue? Who else? This is a big one sometimes too, if you're pitching a business deal and you're not even really sure who the decision makers are. Who else would need to weigh in for this decision to stick? What made you do it? Okay. Avoid questions that can be answered with short answers. So that's, my daughter gives that one. How was school today? Good. I'm like, I don't want the one-word answer. Tell me more. I want to know about your day. How did it go? Give me more detail. So, then we already talked about who has control in the conversation.